Greetings. This is day 104 of the Ukrainian resistance. This is Mediacenter Ukraine. We are ready to start our next briefing. We have Mr. Serhii Babak with us, Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Science and Innovations. Serhii, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Serhii, we will start with the most relevant question. This is something that a lot of people are concerned about. To the best of my knowledge, today is the last day to apply for the multiple subject test that will replace the external knowledge assessment this year. What do you know about that? How many people applied, and what is the current state of affairs? You are right. Today is the last day of the first stage of verification. We have about 400,000 kids that have applied. They have created their registration cards, but we will also have another stage from the 24th of June through the 4th of July. Children indicate where they want to take this multiple subject test, when they want to do that, and once that happens, they will receive an invitation. And they will go to specific locations to take this multiple subject test. As of last night or as of this morning, we have already received 218,000 registrations, 101,000 from Ukraine and almost 26,000 abroad. They have already created their accounts and completed the first verification procedure. So these are the current numbers. They're not really that different from before the war. And of course, we're very happy about that. We can see that adolescents are interested in entering higher educational institutions. As far as I understand, we're having some issues with the sound. Serhii, we have a lot of internally displaced children. They had to relocate for their homes. We have teachers that are also internally displaced. Some of them moved to the western part of the country. Some of them left the country and are based abroad right now. So how are you going to start the new academic year? How are you going to populate classrooms? How are you going to populate schools and universities? What is the government doing to this end? The committee has a shared stance. We want to have the next academic year offline. Of course, everything will be contingent on the safety and security situation, and the relevant administrations will make such decisions in each and every region, whether it's safe to have offline education. We will need to make sure that the relevant infrastructure is in place. So it will be up to the local authorities. But our recommendation is that on the 1st of September, school starts offline, and we really hope that by that time we will have inched closer towards our victory, and we really hope that as of the 1st of September the situation will be safer. Those children that will be still abroad will have to continue studying online, but let's see how things pan out. The armed forces of Ukraine are doing their utmost to achieve our victory, and we are doing everything within our capacity to ensure offline education. But if you have offline education, then you might have some issues with the registration and teaching staff. It might become a bottleneck. What are you doing to prevent such problems in the future? We would like to find out more about that. We are bracing ourselves for diverse scenarios and options. If the active phase of the war persists, we will still have a large number of IDPs, both children and teachers. We are trying to find jobs for them in those communities, in those locations where they relocated, and the same holds true of children. Their rights will not be limited. They will be able to apply to any school where they're physically located right now. So this way or another, they will be able to continue their online education. We are looking into the possibility of creating additional groups and classes. We will also allocate some subventions for internally displaced teachers. We still have some time before the 1st of September. So as I have already mentioned, we are exploring a wide array of options and scenarios, but let's see how the situation will unravel, because as you can see, the situation is very dynamic and volatile. Some of the people are going back to the liberated communities and cities, while others decided to stay in safer regions. You said that we should expect some changes in the curriculum. What's the progress? Will you make it until the 1st of September? We should not really link it to any specific date. We have expert groups operating within the Ministry of Education and Science, and this is something that happens on a permanent basis. So every year, despite wars, despite COVID-19, they convene and they find decisions. For example, they see that there's a need for making innovations. They get together, they discuss the necessary changes, and then they incorporate them in the curriculum. Of course, there are some emerging challenges in the context of the war. They are working on the new content of literature, some historic sciences as well. Fortunately, MPs, the Parliamentary Committee, and the Ministry of Education and Science do not have any direct impact on the experts involved. So they are finalizing their work right now, and then they will present everything to the society. What about the university admission campaign and relocation of certain higher educational institutions from the east to the west of the country? What is the current state of play there? The admission campaign is taking place business as usual. Of course, it will be very specific and peculiar this year. It's very difficult to make any projections and forecasts for the time being. Unfortunately, some kids were not able to apply to desired universities because, for example, if they are living in battle areas and their desired university has relocated, they will not be able to study there. So we cannot really model the final outcomes at the moment. You are right, we have about 30 relocated universities and other higher educational institutions. They are receiving required support from the local authorities so that they will be able to ensure the educational process. Some of the universities will be back to their usual buildings and facilities as of the 1st of September. But some of the university buildings have been hit and decimated, so physically they are not there. It's a time-consuming process to restore and reconstruct some of these buildings, but I really hope that each and every graduate will be able to pick their desired university. Most of them operate in a remote fashion, so graduates can pick their university, and once the situation is safer, they will be able to be back with their university. But we will definitely ensure the children's right to education. Are there any examples of blocked universities? Unfortunately, we're having some technical issues. Hopefully, our technical team will be able to resume the connection with Serhii. Serhii, let's give it another try. Are there universities that will be relocated? For sure, if there are any examples of this kind, please mention them. Well, we have the Mariupol University. It will not be able to be back in Mariupol. It relocated to Kyiv, and when we liberate the city of Mariupol, it will take us some time to reconstruct the university buildings. Some of the universities relocated from Kharkiv to Mukachevo, for example, while the hostilities are still ongoing. So it's a natural process, but I think that most of these universities and higher educational institutions will be able to be back on their premises before the beginning of the new academic years. If the university buildings have been damaged or decimated, then of course they will have to start the new academic year in a new location. The post-war economy will require a large number of highly qualified blue-collar workers. There will be a dire need for manual labor. Can you expand on those adaptations and modifications that we will have to make in our education in light of the war, in light of the post-war needs? And what about vocational education and training? The president of Ukraine created a National Recovery Council. He issued a relevant decree. I am a member of one of the working groups, the Working Group on Education and Science. And within this working group, we are devising required steps and moves to ensure the recovery of our country in the post-war period, because this war is not only about challenges, but it also creates multiple windows of opportunity. We are doing everything possible to prepare all the sectors of our economy for the post-war period, and we also want to approximate the European Union. There's a lot of progress in this regard. We need to bring our economy in line with the EU standards and regulations, and the same holds true of the education sector. So this is something that we are actively engaged in. As for the second part of your question, the one pertaining to vocational education and training, we've had multiple discussions with the government of Ukraine, and the understanding is there that the country will not be recovered and reconstructed by lawyers, economists, and some other professions, with all due respect for them. So there will be a shift of focus on vocational education and training, and we really hope that VET will become a driving force for the training of those professionals and specialists that our country will be in dire need of after our victory. Thank you very much. We had Serhii Babak, Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Science and Innovations. We talked about education during the war, and we also tried to picture the education system